Dustin Runyon, welcome to the Next Level Agents podcast, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. Thanks for having me, brother.
Dude, I'm so thankful that you would agree to give us some of your time today. So, brother, let's just jump right into it. So a lot of our listeners and viewers today, I've seen you talk. Not everybody though. And so, what I wanted to do is just give a chance for people to meet the guy I like to call D-Run, Dustin Runyon, and who the heck is Dustin Runyon? I want to talk to you about your career through real estate and a few other fun things and topics I'm sure we'll get into in the next hour or so. But dude, if you don't mind, I would love to just kind of start off with introduction to you and kind of who you are. Give us the elevator pitch on Dustin Runyon, and then I got some specifics I want to nail down with you.
Cool. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. Synopsis. I've been doing real estate since I was like 19. I sucked at college, so I dropped out of that as quickly as possible. Got into real estate, was terrible for about 5 years, and then ended up running fixing and flipping properties in Phoenix, then coming to Havasu, running an office down here, building that, opened a coaching and consulting company where I teach at universities, coach and consult for leaders and for organizations in regards to leadership and environment, and obsessed with psychology and how to get how we do what we do and why we do what we do. And yeah, man. And now I'm started a real estate team in 2019. Just rocked it. We're on pace to do about 40 million our first year. Left the running the company, the real estate company. And yeah, man. So got the coaching consulting company rocking. I travel and teach, and got the real estate company rocking right now, and got a few other endeavors I'm rocking too. Yeah,
cool. That's a good overview, man. So one of my favorite things about you is like you were one of those crazy guys like myself that said, you know what, I'm gonna do a ton of short sales, and you just started negotiating short sales, right? So that's one of the things I think that has bonded us from the very beginning is our love for apparently just abusing ourselves with the bank, right?
Yeah. So, oh my God, it was painful.
Yeah, dude, total painful time, but also totally great, right? In a lot of ways, both learned a ton from them. So you covered a lot in your intro. You've done a lot of different things in the real estate space. So you ran a real estate company. You've done flips. I think you're still doing flips as well from time to time as opportunities present themselves.
Yep.
This year, you said 2019, but I know you meant 2018. You started a real estate team, right? In your hometown of Lake Havasu. And like, back the truck up, dude. $40 million in your first year.
Yeah, first 12 months we'll do that. We started July of this year, and so in our first 12 months we're on pace to do about 40 million. Yeah.
So, dude, we're gonna dig into that, okay? And here's the reason why. I was actually thinking about you yesterday in another conversation I was having with somebody else that had to do with we were using the word mindset, but it's like psychology, right? And so you know that text exchange that I'm talking about, right? That you and I had on how success is like 80% psychology, 20% mechanics, yet the amount of time people spend on the vice versa, right, is disproportionate to where the results really come from.
Correct.
And tell me about that. Teach me that. Teach me about psychology versus mechanics, and like where are we missing the boat? Because to hit 40, bro, I'm talking to people that can't get one house sold in their first year. And you just said my team and I are going to sell $40 million worth of homes in our first year. So how the hell does that happen?
Yeah. Back to like the psychology mindset is, this happened. I got into a company and I started and I got infatuated with short sales. To be honest with you, if I was just to be for real, that created like a lot of anxiety. Like that was brutal on me. I did 4 years of short sales, closed like 250 short sales in the 4-year period, which wasn't a ton, but there was 2 of us. And so there was only 2 of us doing this. And so it created this like mental like monster inside of me to where I was focusing on a lot of things I couldn't control. And I was letting a lot of things affect me that I shouldn't. So I started reading on psychology, and got obsessed with it. And I came into this company and I saw all these people that had all the tools, all the resources, had everything that they needed to succeed. And a majority of them just weren't succeeding. And it would baffle me because I was like 24 years old, right? And I had that naivety. And I'm like, they're given everything. And with the company that we had, is like we had nothing, right? We had our own brokerage. We started our own brokerage, which was, looking back on it, it was like, yeah, it was not, we did not do a great job, but we learned a lot from it, which was great. And so I came into the company and I'm like, everyone has all the strategies they need. Everyone has all of the resources, all the strategies, everything they need to succeed, and they're not succeeding. Why? And so I just got obsessed with psychology, and the reason why was, and it's that exchange that we had that day, is majority of people spend 90 to 95% on the how-to. And if how-tos work, there's a book that you can grab. I think if it's how-tos worked, we'd all be like fit, rich, and skinny or something. And
yeah, it's like my first mentor wrote that book. It's called How-Tos Were Enough, We'd All Be Skinny, Rich, and Happy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And it's just not the case. And that's where a lot of people spin their wheels. And so it really is psychology. So, and I would even go as further as like 90% is the mental game, with 10% being the strategy, the how-to. And so I just got obsessed with psychology and then creating an environment of psychology, and you saw it just shift. And I'll share it later on today, but there is an environment that you can create to where it benefits the psychology and the emotional fitness and the psychological strength that it's going to take to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, so something I hope that people listening to this conversation pick up on is Josh Smith, who was
Awesome.
was on recently as well too, and he's talking about his peak performance coach and how she's like completely changed his life, and it has literally not been about business, even though it's been all about business.
Yes.
And right. So in my mind, what I'm hearing is psychology, not mechanics. And so, man, it just when I look at some of the people that I'm around, and then I look up to like you and Josh and a few others, constantly what's showing up is psychology. The mechanics, like they have to be there, but it's such an insignificant piece of what's really happening that it's almost not worth talking about.
Yeah. Me and Josh had that exact same conversation. I was on his podcast, and I've got 3 coaches. I have a business coach. So that's going to help me with strategy in my real estate business and in the businesses that I'm working in. Okay. I have a psychologist, just a psychologist, just to talk about things that I'm rock and rolling, and that performance, right? The psychology of it, and how to advance my psychology and to always be strengthening that emotional fitness. And then the second one is I have a leadership coach.
Oh, I love it, man.
People and leadership. Yeah. And so I think it's super important. And I loved when Josh shared that. I love that I don't think enough people talk about that. They get on and we talk about strategy. And he's a big proponent of the mental game.
Yeah. So, okay. So you have 3 coaches. So you're like, it's safe to say you're investing in yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. That was like, dude, I always said like a coach is like the angel on earth, man. That's when my life really, really started to change. When I was 25, I was like forced to have a coach, and they're like, well, if you're going to come on and do this, we're going to get you a coach. And I was like, cool. Hired a coach, and like we first just started on my calendar, and it was just super basic, and then just kept working. And ever since 25 and 32, 7 years, I've never gone without a coach ever.
Dang, 7 years, huh? What's funny is like when I think about you, dude, I've known you for longer, but the thing that bond that I feel like really connected us is we went to a Tony Robbins event together 3 or 4 years ago. And I guess it was 3.5 years ago now. And number one, we had the greatest Uber ride of all time. But
yes, gangster rap, NWA.
But number 2, though, like just the fact that it's no surprise to me that where I would spend time with you the most was like at a place where you're working on your psychology and getting better, and I was doing that too, right? And I think that's one of the things that's just has attracted me to you over the last couple of years to want to be around you more and hang out with you more, is the fact that you are always working on that, because it's not strategy. And I think we all fall in that trap, right? I think it's normal as humans. We're taught that way all through school. Like there's a certain way to do things, right? There's a certain formula that if you do this, then this, that we're going to have success in whatever success is. And what I've constantly see you and some other top performers do is like, yeah, okay, but like I'm gonna go focus on like right here between my ears. And I just that's so underplayed and under talked about in the business world. Um, I
Mhm.
don't, anyways, I admire you for that, I guess is what I'm saying. And like, why do you think, Dustin, like, why is it that is so underplayed and undervalued? Why isn't it talked about more? Or maybe not even talked about. Why isn't it acted upon more?
I honestly think it's easier to sell strategy than it is to sell mindset. So it's easier to sell. It's easier to sell products, right? It's easier to sell the new shiny object. It's easier to sell the how-to than it is to sell the fix you, and not fix you, but like that you're in control, right? It's
Yeah.
easier to sell that. It's just easier to sell, so you see more of it. Like, hey, it's not you. It's that you don't have the right Facebook strategy. It's not you. It's that you don't have this new shiny object over here that could just fix it all for you. It's not you. It's the fact that you have to buy our product, and if you do this, then everything will be okay. That's easier to sell in today's world.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, okay, so let me ask you this. So you've led a lot of people over the last few years, realtors specifically, who's obviously the vast majority of our listeners here,
Yeah,
and at all different levels, right? You've been around some really high performers. You've been around some like brand new, got licensed, don't know if I'm
yep,
going to make it, right?
totally.
So, I mean, when they come to you, like, how do you start a consulting session, man? That's what I'm interested in
Yeah,
because you've consulted so many realtors. Now you're consulting them on your own team and in your own company. But you've also done it where it was part of the office that you ran.
yeah,
And I know you're also coaching people. Like, where do you start that process at with people when they say,
yeah.
Dustin, great, I love it, psychology, great, I'm gonna go pick up the Jordan Peterson book, and like,
Yeah.
what the fuck do I do today?
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do they do today? Well, if they're coming, there's a few different ways. Obviously, it's all situational in regards to where they're at. I mean, if somebody's struggling in business and whatnot, the very first thing I ask them to do is just take me through a day. And if they can't with clarity explain to me what it is that they do every day, then we need to really, really boil down kind of where they're spending their time. That's the first thing. I really try to listen. The big thing that I go after, and there's actually a video on my website where I explain it in more depth, DustinRunyon.com. But what I really am looking for is the truth. And so, like the real truth, not my truth, their truth. And what tends to happen is the truth is painful and the truth hurts, and at the same time you hear all these other things like the truth will set you free. But what people tend to do is when they look at the truth, and I think it's Cheplack who says this, is growth is the constant pursuit of your truth. And
Yeah.
that's just so true. When he said that, I was like, that's exactly what I'm explaining in this gig, is like, if here's your truth, we go to approach the truth and it looks scary. So what we do is we create this force field that blocks us from getting to the truth. Like the force field could be this little force field that we create could be, I don't have time. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough yet. I'm too young. I'm too old. And we create all this force field that stops us from getting to what's real, right? And then there's also things that we're unconscious of. Like a lot of times in business, your spouse is your biggest problem. Like I hate saying that, like, but it's just the truth. Or, the people you're hanging around with every single day. Or, you think you're hanging out with high achievers until you get around high achievers, like, right? Like
Yeah.
nine-figure guys and gals who are creating insane businesses, and then you realize there's another level. So so to answer your question, if somebody comes to me with a problem, I ask them just to walk me through a few of their days. The goal for me is to look at the world through their eyes.
Okay.
What does the world look like through their eyes? What do they care about? What do they value? What is it they want? Big three questions I ask: what do you want? Why do you want it? And what are you willing to sacrifice to get it? And usually that third answer doesn't align with the first two. They aren't willing to sacrifice enough things. They're not willing to. I would say most people are more loyal to their comfort than they are their family.
Tell me about that. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Let's go deeper there. Josh said the same thing. What I would in a moment a couple of weeks ago. That was part of something he was talking about. So go deeper on that. What do you mean by that? So pretend you're consulting me. I'm the agent, and like Justin. What do you mean? What am I willing to sacrifice?
Well, I would ask you, well, the first question is I would want to know what it is that you wanted and why you wanted it. So like, and then from there, it would be pretty simple. Most of the things that we're not willing to sacrifice are emotional. And so once we can handle the psychology of what we're not willing to sacrifice. So we spend a lot of time in our life doing things that meet our needs in the moment and do not fulfill us long term. Right?
Right.
And so I would look for a lot of the things in your life that you're doing that meet your needs in the short term, but are destructive long term.
Okay. So you're looking for the patterns of those things, and the decisions I'm making on a daily, maybe even hourly basis that feels good in the moment, but hurting me long run. It feels like it's the right thing right now, actually the bad thing for the long run, for the results I say that I'm after.
Yep. And then I would really try to build a lot of rapport with you, try to look at the world through your eyes. From there, what I'm looking for is, what are you avoiding? So what are the things in your life that you're avoiding that if you didn't avoid them and you faced them head on with openness and readiness, that there would be growth? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so what I like to do is I like to go to the root of it.
Okay.
I don't like, a lot of people are trying to solve these little problems so they can avoid the real problem. Right? They solve all these little things so they can avoid the real thing. Because the real thing's they're gonna hurt. The real things means you're gonna have to step outside your comfort zone psychologically. It means that you're gonna have to break old beliefs that used to serve you that no longer serve you.
Wow. Okay. So I feel like we could talk about this for the rest of the time, but I want to be able to talk about other topics. However, on this topic, Dustin, so all right, I'm a listener. I'm listening to this conversation that you and I are having, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm willing to get real with me. Like, I like what Dustin said. What do I do, man? Like, what's my first step? Like, do I need to read something? Do I need to hire a coach? Is there a certain company? Do I need to take a test? Like, somebody wants to get on this journey of, you know what? I'm gonna unfuck myself, right? I want to go after it, and I'm willing to be real, and I'm willing to find out, those things about myself. What do I do?
Okay, so right off the bat, we are connectors. So meaning we are social animals. We feed off of connection. Whether you believe that or not, we feed off connection. And whatever
100%.
your belief is in regards to this, there was a Harvard psychologist where he talked about you can literally look at this at species and realize like our what is more social, mammals or reptiles? Mammals. Right? They're more social than reptiles. And then if you look at primates compared to mammals, who are more social? Primates. And then humans to primates, which ones are more social?
Humans,
right? And then we're kind of going backwards a little bit now, right? Is because we don't connect. The very first thing that I believe that we need to do is the only real way to connect is to remove judgment. So if you and me are going to connect, Kevin, the only way for us to really, truly connect is to remove judgment. And most people in their life today, they only really connect like at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night after a bottle of wine, right? They call it like a heart-to-heart. Like we had a heart-to-heart the other night, man. And it actually feels really, really good because they connect with another person. But who is it that we communicate with the most in our life?
I would think ourselves.
Yeah. And who are we judging more than anybody else in our life?
Ourselves.
And so if you're wanting to influence, let me give you this. You cannot influence anybody that you judge. And you can't connect with anybody that you judge. And yet here we're trying to influence ourselves to become more, do more, feel more, share more, yet we're judging the hell out of ourselves every single day.
That's
so if
deep.
you're gonna, and I know this, and it is, and I know maybe like airy fairy or whatever, but if it's actual, like I always say, it's actual. You want to go to strategy. Here's a great strategy for you: is we have to start with removing judgment from ourselves. We have to stop beating ourselves up, and when we stop doing that, and we start appreciating ourselves a little bit more, we can start to connect with ourselves. And when we connect with ourselves, we can be more true about what's really happening. Think about it. The people in your life you connect with the most, that you trust the most, you open up to the most. There's a conversation you and I had when I dropped you off at your hotel room last time we were here, where I opened up to you. I said, it's not this in a relationship. I can go all the way back to this, and it goes back to, whatever. It goes back to really this root. And so when you're willing to connect with yourself without judgment, you'll find those things. You'll find the truth so much easier. So step one is to remove judgment and stop beating yourself up over every little thing you do. The world makes a lot of money off of you beating yourself up. Society and cultural conditioning is conditioned you to beat yourself up consistently so you can go and purchase more things that don't truly fulfill you, but they make you feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's so that's step one. To find your truth, we've got to connect, and we've got to be willing to be open and truthful with ourselves. The way you do that is you got to remove the judgment.
Remove the judgment. I like that. It's funny to go back to that word connection. You and I have talked about this a lot. Like there's a guy who's a friend and a mentor to me as well. His name is Joe Polish. And, he's got his mission in life is to change the global conversation on addiction. Right. And he always says, like, the opposite of addiction is connection. And so, it's funny, the more I learn about these silly things called human beings, like the more I realize it does come back to something that simple. What I hadn't thought about is like removing the judgment for myself, but you just made me think. You came and spoke for the Group 4610 conference last year, right? The Think Bigger conference. And I'll never forget one of the things that you said. It didn't just stick with me, because like it's been repeated to me 25 times from other folks, was like, would you be friends with yourself if your friends spoke to you the way you speak to yourself? Or you said it way more succinct than what I did.
Yeah.
But you essentially said, would you be friends with yourself if one of your friends spoke to you that way? And the answer is no. Like, we tend to beat ourselves up. No matter how much we love ourselves, like we do tend to. I like to think I love myself. I really do like myself quite a bit, and yet, like, I find myself in self-judgment all the time too. And I had a buddy remind me, like, I didn't follow up with a buddy. We were supposed to go grab a beer last week, and he just texted me. He's like, "Hey, dude, I know it's crazy for you right now after the holidays." And I went into like, oh my God, I'm an ass. I dropped the ball, yada, yada, yada. Now, he actually happened to used to work for the guy that wrote that book, If How-Tos Were Enough, We'd All Be Skinny, Rich, and Happy, for a long period of time. And that's how we initially connected. So he quickly reminded me of like, whoa, dude, get the hell out of like beating yourself up in judgment around not freaking having a beer with me. Like, come on. But it's so funny. I sit there and I think for myself, like, oh, I love myself, and I do. And yet it's so easy to fall into that on something so stupid, like going to have a beer with a buddy.
Here's why, though. We're conditioned to be that way. So instead of saying like, I'm sorry, what we do is we'll beat ourselves up, because we beat ourselves up, it makes us feel better about making the mistake. Right? We're conditioned to like, you're not sorry. No, I am sorry. Like, if you say you're sorry and you smile, society says you're not really sorry.
Right.
It's like, no, I am sorry. I'm just not going to kick the shit out of myself for the next week because of it.
Yeah.
So what we do is we punish ourselves psychologically, then we feel better about it. Then we feel better about making the mistake.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Humans are so fucked up. Like, aren't we? Like, we're totally jacked. We are totally jacked. So,
yeah.
All right. So I think we could go on. So, okay. So it starts with unjudging ourselves, and then
connecting.
Yeah, connecting. What's the next step? Is there books? Are there coaches? Are there companies? What do you do?
So then from there, I'll give you. We only have so much time, and I'll give you some like quick, or not quick stuff. I'll give you some just some, like, I guess, like the bullet points of it is the very first thing that I'm going to look at is what you're focusing on to. So like, what is your main focus of things? Actually, hold on. I'm going to pause you real quick. I need to go grab my charger.
Okay.
Hold on.
Fair. For those of you listening at home, go ahead and press pause. It was a joke, by the way. He'll be right back. Probably going to edit that out.
You'd think if I was going to do a podcast, I'd have my charger plugged in.
That's so funny.
So the second thing that I'm going to look at is, what are you focusing on? And there's 3 key, maybe 4 key things that I look at. 1, are you focusing on what you can or you can't control?
Okay.
That is huge. And I know that conversation is starting more in business, and I really like that. I'm seeing some of the influencers within the business community talk about that, and I really like that. So what you can or can't control. Most people are focused on things they can't control. And when you're focused on things that you can't control, you're powerless, and you feel powerless. And there's very, very few things that you can control. So let me go into this real quick. There's a difference between expectations and standards. Expectations are outside of your control. Standards are behaviors.
Ooh.
You're not in control of the fact of whether you can set, like for instance, I didn't get any appointments today. You're not in control of whether you can get an appointment or not. You can control how many calls you make, how many connects you make, how good you are at scripts, how often you practice scripts. You're in control of how many times you ask for the appointment on the phone, but you aren't in control of whether you get an appointment or not. You're not in control of how many closings you get. You're only in control of your behaviors. And what a lot of people do is they listen to this, if you can closely. A lot of people put their happiness in what happens or what doesn't happen, instead of putting happiness in their behaviors, in how they act. And when you put your happiness in things and in things that happen outside of your control, you are now victim to those things. So if things go good, you're happy. If things go bad, you're pissed off or sad or depressed, right? And so you're this like constant, right, up and down. Where you will find fulfillment is in the way that you behave on a consistent basis. Those are called standards. Remove your expectations and raise your standards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Everybody's putting their happiness in all of these. It's like, I've got 5 deals going and 3 of them fell out. Damn it. It's like, yeah, it's not great, but are you in control of it? No. But you had an expectation. Because I forget who said that, but it's like happiness is reality minus expectation.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right? But here's another thing that I would add to that. Reality minus expectation, while behaving in a way that is true to your heart and that is fulfilling to what it is that you really want. Does that make sense? Yes,
it does.
So we need to remove, we got to quit letting things make us, and this is going to sound ridiculous, and a lot of people disagree with this, and that's fine. This is what I do in my life, is got to quit letting outside things make us so happy and so sad, and start allowing our behavior and how we behave, because that's all we're really in control of. We can influence things, but we can't control them. The more you try to control outside things, it's delusion. Like you think you have control of them and you don't.
Yeah.
Is to let the standards in your behavior. That's all you can really control. The second thing is, do you focus on what you do or you don't have? Most are focused on what they don't have, right? It's funny. You get 2 leaders who have the same resources. One kills it, one breaks it down, right? One complains about everything that they don't. We need this, we need this, we need this, while the other one's taking it to the moon. Same resources, right? One's focused on what they have, and the other one's focused on what they don't have. And then the third thing is, are you focused on the past, the present, or the future? What do most people tend to focus on?
Past.
And where you're going to find it is where you're going to find success, or at least for me, is focusing on the present moment right now, and then what I'm going to create in the future. What I'm going to create. So these are our focuses. I know I went a lot real quick.
I like it.
Yeah, it's connecting with yourself and removing judgment.
Okay.
That's how we're going to influence ourselves to move forward. If I just judged you all day, I can't influence you, right? If I understand and appreciate you, I don't have to agree with you. If I understand and appreciate you and look at the world through your eyes, we can influence. Second thing is, what are you focusing on consistently throughout your day? Are you focusing on what you can or you can't control, right? Are we focusing on on what we expect, or are we focused on our behaviors? Right? Second thing, what you do or don't have. And then are you focused on the past, present, or future?
That's awesome,
So
dude.
that's what I'm looking at, right? When I'm sitting with somebody.
Cool.
And by the way, environments can, like companies can, as a whole, it goes even bigger, right? It's not just a single person. What is the company focusing on, sort of thing.
So I want to go one more story. The hope is a strategy. So you had a video like that. That video blew up, and that like caught my eye. I mean, that was one of that video might have been the single reason why I was like, Dustin, I need you to come to Think Bigger. I need you to drive to Tempe, and so you can speak to our team. And then, oh, by the way, then I need you to drive to Vegas a few months later for Next Level Agents Live, and I need you to talk. So could you tell us that story real quick? Hope is a strategy, and you know what I'm talking about, that video, that experience you had with a potential client.
Oh, yeah. So I was hired to consult for these guys who have been super successful. They saw me, heard about me through people. That's usually, it's all organic, usually how you hear it. And I go to sit down with them. And we're actually we go to sit down at a restaurant, and there's two of them. And before they even sit down, like I go to sit down, before they even sit down, the one guy looks at me and he goes, "Hey, before we even get started on this, I've heard your shit, and I'm not into this whole rah positivity shit that you do." And I'm like, "My rah, what's rah? What is that?" And he goes, all your positivity, inspiration shit. And I'm like, did I say something that inspired you? Like, what the? And he's like, no, just like all this, like, this stuff. And I'm like, and I don't know why, what it just came out of me. You ever said something after you said it, you were like, hell yeah, I said that.
Whoa, yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, that was me. I said, positivity is a strategy. I go, if anything else worked, I'm not loyal to positivity. I'm loyal to the outcome it provides me in my life, right? Positivity is not like rainbows and unicorns. It's looking at the solution when a problem arises, right? I go, if sadness, depression, anger, resentment, if those worked, I would use those things. I was like, but positivity is simply a strategy for me that I use. And he was just like, whoa. We sat down. I've been working with him for ever since.
That's awesome.
It's a psychological strategy. Yeah. It's not like airy fairy. We aren't clapping when things are going wrong. Like, I don't say my car's clean when it's dirty. Like, it's not getting rid of the truth, it's acting in a way that benefits your future self.
All right, man. So I want to
go ahead.
What's that?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
I want to switch topics. Cool. So another thing about you that I know and appreciate, and I want others to get this, because I think there's actually some business lessons in here too, is tell me about Only Orchids. So it's a local nonprofit right there in your community, right? Yep. Tell me, okay, so Only Orchids, what is that? How did it start? And what is it doing today?
Yeah, it started by this thing that I learned about, like, we only have so much time, right? And so how is it, I love hanging out with my friends. I love socializing. Like, it gives me massive amounts of energy. And I also wanted to start this charity. So I said, well, what if we just started this charity with my friends, right? And we can hang out and do good together, and it can be purposeful and pretty awesome. So there was a thing in our town called Havasu Orchids and Onions, and it was like the positive and the negative. People would go on there, onions to Kevin for cutting me off today. Yeah, cutting me off today on the side of the street or whatever. And orchids to Kevin for, being sexy. And yeah, all day, baby. And so I just started this online Facebook group called Only Orchids. So it's only positive. Like, you could go to this place in the morning when you got up, or whenever you scrolled through Facebook, and you could scroll through our Only Orchids page, and it could all be positive stuff. And it blew up. I think now we have like 13,000, 12,800 people over on the page now. It blew up. And so we attached the charity to that. And so what I learned about all these charities and being on all these boards and stuff is everyone's so damn political. Like, if we do something here, then we have to do it here, and then we have to do it here, and then we have to do it here. And I was like, I just want to start a charity where we do what we want, give to who we want, whenever we want, and we make fundraising exciting. So we throw parties. We have a Desert Warrior Challenge where it's like a Ragnar race, where we set up obstacles and everything, and all proceeds go to our charity. We hire like people to come down. We had a concert with these guys called Con Bro Chill. They're freaking awesome. And all the money goes to our charity. Local brewery here in town that we throw parties with and stuff. And we raise money and then we give it to whoever we want, whenever we want. It's pretty cool. So there's the mission is to simply just spread positivity, to drown out the negativity by making positivity louder, and by getting the younger group in our community to make giving and serving cool. And so yeah, so that's what we've done. And we have a lot of partnerships. And this year we feed people at Thanksgiving. This year we're feeding 2,000 people. We partner with local businesses, and we're feeding 2,000 people. And then at Christmas time, our goal is to give away about 2,000 toys as well.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's a charity where we just kind of, it's like that entrepreneurial spirit of like doing whatever we want to do in regards to giving.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. I also think that I'm just going to go into my business mind here for a second, if I could. My guess is that's not hurting the Dustin Runyon sales team. My guess is it's probably supporting you because it's something that you're doing. Number one, that you're passionate about, but number two, out in your community where you're actually selling real estate.
Yeah,
and I think that goes. I don't want that to be missed. Like, I don't want to just talk about the charity, although the charity is awesome. It's so cool. I love the way you guys, I love some of the stuff. I've seen you give away money to teachers just because they're teachers and they need a break. Like, I've seen some of the stuff. I've seen the contest for the biggest tip that can be left on the bar tab, whatever, $1,000, who can beat it? Stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and that's all. I love that stuff, right? And I like that it also could positively impact your real estate sales business. And it's something I think a lot of us as realtors who are going, well, I want to get more business from my community. I want to be more involved in my community. And I think there's a lesson there to actually just go get involved in your community and actually do it the way you like it. Because you started that from scratch.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah, if you're not involved in your community, you're doing your business a massive disservice. My buddy out here, he owns like 5 dealerships, and I heard him consulting with someone. I was in Nebraska with him over the weekend, and I heard him consulting with another. I heard him like on the phone with another guy who owns a bunch of dealerships, and they don't have great numbers. And he said his biggest problem is he doesn't want to get involved in his community. Period. End of story. Like, it's just like you have to get involved in your community. I always said I want to be known as like the community guy. What is Jason Abrams? Jason Abrams says, like, real estate's business is like a popularity contest, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to get involved and give back at some level. It not only is it fulfilling, but it does great things for your business as well.
Doesn't that go back to the conversation around connection?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Like
1,000%. You know how many people I get to connect with just by handing out 2,000 meals and shaking their hands and giving them hugs and like really connecting with people on a deep level. When we do things like that, they open up, they're honest, and you're connecting with your community, period. End of story. And no matter how big your city is, you can connect with the people in it, period. Yeah.
That's so awesome. All right, man. So we're winding down. We got just about 15 minutes to go. Tell me about this is basically the end of 2018 right now. We're coming up on 2019. It's right around the corner. What's coming up for you in 2019? What are you excited about in 2019? What are your projects that you're working on, if you can tell us about it, in 2019?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to be traveling and speaking a lot more in 2019. So the goal is to have about 100 dates where I'm out speaking and traveling. To get our sales team next year, the goal is going to double. So we're really looking to grow that to at least triple that. And yeah, man, just continuing to grow myself and to continue to learn and to continue and expand on who I am. That way I can serve and give more to the people around me and to the people in my life.
So that's awesome. If I wanted to go see you speak in person, like, could I see that on DustinRunyon.com, or do I need to go somewhere else?
Yep, get on all my social media stuff. There'll be an events page on my site as well, on my DustinRunyon.com site as well. I'll be speaking in Scottsdale. I'll be speaking with you, and I'll be speaking at a growth summit up in Scottsdale in December as well. So I got two in I think it's first week of December.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome. And then, okay, so what are you excited about outside of that Dustin's doing? Like, forget about work for a minute, forget about speaking. Like, what's exciting for you coming up in 2019? Like, what are you most just like juiced up about?
Oh, that's hard because that's really hard outside of work. I mean, it pretty much consumes. I let it consume me. I want it to consume me, but it's outside of that. I don't know, man. I'm really excited what we got going with our team here with the coaching and consulting that's growing like crazy, like too crazy. It was crazy. Like course rate when I start this thing, that thing just it like tripled overnight. And so
Why wouldn't it?
and so I'm excited about that. You know, I really, that's all I do, and I spend time with my awesome fiance Lee.
She's amazing, by the way.
She's like the best. I always
She's
she gets so much props. Like having a supportive spouse at home is so freaking important, and I'm so lucky. I'm blessed. That's the greatest blessing in my life. Period.
Yeah, dude, she's rad, and it's easy to see how much she enjoys supporting you, and like she's obviously super special in her own right too. And
Totally.
but she's awesome. So all right, dude. One of the things I know about you, you love to read. You're always reading something. What are you reading right now?
Yeah. Actually, I knew you were going to ask that question, so I pulled it up. I'm reading some. Let's see here. So a book that it's going to sound weird. There's a really good book called I'm going to pull it up. The Denial of Death, which is good. I try to read. I would challenge two people, like read outside of your industry. You do that a lot. Like you go to Joe Polish's stuff.
Yeah.
You go to Genius Network. You're going to a lot of things that are outside of your industry, right?
Yep.
Anything on like emotional intelligence, there's a good book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, The Denial of Death. I love anything to do. I love The Biology of Belief is a really good book. Psycho-Cybernetics is a really good book. Gosh, dude, I have hundreds of them.
I'm going to steal a Tim Ferriss question. Which book have you gifted the most? And why?
Honestly, probably because there was a time in my life where I was the lowest I've ever been. And I remember I was actually out here on the island and I was in my Ford Expedition. It was gold. It was the Golden Retriever. And I was low, man, like low, like as low as you could get without going lower. And I remember my buddy mentioning Anthony Robbins. And I drove to this place called Hastings. I don't know if anyone out of Hastings, but they'd sell used books.
I grew up in Yuma, bro. Hastings.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hang out.
Yeah, right? That's where we hung out too. And so I drove there, and my buddy had gone to a date with Destiny, and when he was in college, and I drove there, and I bought Awaken the Giant Within, and I read the whole book in the coffee shop there at Hastings, and I still have it. Actually, I gave it to Lee. I've read it like 10 times, so there's like 10 different highlighters. I loved it because it was a practical way. It was practical psychology. It was a practical way. A lot of it was NLP, like neuro-linguistic programming. A lot of it was just your basic stuff that you could get out of like The Alchemist, right? But it was packaged in a way that you could really understand it, how to speak to yourself, the language that you use, what you focus on, what you like, all the things that we kind of talked about today. But that's probably what I've gifted the most to. I wouldn't say the most, but that's a book that I give to a lot of people that I care about.
Cool.
Yeah, Awaken the Giant.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. So I know Tony's had a big influence on your life. So that's cool to hear that. I didn't know that would be the answer. So
yeah. It's the book that I think, I don't know if I've actually gifted it the most, but it's the book it's the book that got me into books.
Okay.
That was the first book I ever read, and that year I read a book a week. Like right after that, I read a book a week, like every week. It was horrible because I hate reading. I listen to everything now, but yeah, that was the book that it kind of ignited me.
Awesome, man. All right, dude. Well, we're wrapping up. I'm not going to keep you too long. I have one more question for you, and then I want to, like, anything else at all that you want to wrap about. I want to be able to do that. My last question for you And if it's something you already covered, that's fine. So re-say it. But I ask everybody this question, and I got this from somebody who's impacted my life, Dave Asprey, on his podcast, Bulletproof Radio, which is, all right, so what are your 3 tips? Like, leave us with 3 pieces of advice for just kind of, in general, kicking more ass in life. Doesn't matter if it's business, personal, whatever. Just 3 tips for kicking ass at life, doing better at life.
Hang around better people. And know that is so cliche to say, but even people in your life that are really nice and really good to you, and they're really caring and really loving, you don't realize it, but a lot of those types of people are slowly bringing you down.
Yeah.
Like, period. Get in there. There's another level into whatever it is that you want in your life. Get around those people. Call them. Ask them to go to lunch. Ask them to go play. Like, I do it every week almost, still to this day, where I call people I admire and I ask to hang out with them. So get around not better people, but get around people that are so much further than you.
Okay.
Like, that make you feel, a lot of times that makes people feel insignificant. So don't let it make you feel insignificant. Like, allow it to inspire you and get around them.
Cool. Okay, that's number 1.
Second thing, stop focusing on shit you can't control.
Yeah.
Period. I already went over that, but stop focusing on shit you cannot control. Most of it you can't control. So you got to make peace with the fact that you're not in control of majority of what's going on. Third thing, you're too fancy. Stop with the fancy shit. Like, everyone is like just so fancy about business and everything that they're trying to do. Like, stick to the basics of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give more than you take. If you're in business, stick to what works and stick to what you know works. And then further down the road, you can get fancy, and just stick to the basics of life. Be appreciative, be good, do what's right.
When you say like forget the fancy, stop doing that. That leads me to like something I was taught. Like Ben Kinney always said this to me. Like, complexity is like it's just an excuse for inaction, right? So we make things complex so we don't have to act. And so when you said the word fancy, I heard in my mind complexity. That's what we do.
Totally.
We make things more complex because then there's like a built-in excuse for why I didn't really have to take the action I know that I really should be taking.
Oh, that's we all do it. And it's like we create a story that justifies the result we currently have. And the story makes us feel better about it because the truth hurts. So we cover it up with the story. And that's that force field that blocks you from getting to what's true. Dude,
Yeah.
the whole reason we've been able to go from like 0 to 1 million and 0 to, to be on our 4th month and number 1 in our whole city is we just aren't sexy about anything. Like, nothing's fancy. We do like 3 things every day over and over and over and over and over again. And then we create an environment that is first one, an environment of energy, performance, quality conversation, accountability, and coachability. You do that. It's just you're right. Ben's been Ben's been an influence on me too, and he's huge on just like, and he's right. Just stick to what is simple and what works.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? In a relationship, it's the same. Like, the beginning of a relationship, you go there to give, and a year goes by, and then you start focusing on what you're not getting now. Start focusing on yourself. The beginning, you only focus on them. And then a time period shifts and you start focusing on yourself. And then you wonder why you're not happy. There's some simple things that if you follow them, they're pretty basic, but we like to make them more, and life isn't black and white. I'm not trying to say it is.
Right.
But there's some simple things that can help the quality of your life and business.
Yeah, no, I was on the phone with a friend yesterday, and we were talking about that. Like, literally, like, it's not black and white. Like, as humans, we're super. We are complex, right? Because that's why we make complexity. It's because inside we're complex. Like, we're all screwed up, and it's not black and white. And to me, that really goes back to something you said at the beginning, which is like, basically, stop judging yourself. Give yourself some grace. There's a lot of things in this world I think that maybe we can't explain about life. We can't explain about ourselves. And so what we tend to do is judge ourselves for our actions in a situation, as opposed to like, connecting with ourselves in your language. And so, I mean, that really resonated with me. And Yeah, people are complex, but we can actually just get more. So to me, that's just some more argument to like, let's get as simple as we can. Let's get basic. Let's do basics really well and take the complexity out. Or take the fancy out, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, dude, I super appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah.
Any last parting shots, anything at all that you want to share? DustinRunyon.com is the website we can all go to.
Yeah.
Follow you on your speaking gigs, catch up with whatever you're up to.
Yeah, hit me on social, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, all that stuff. No, I love what you guys are doing with Next Level Agents, man. You're creating a community that's true, that's raw, and that delivers real, true value. And I appreciate you. The industry needs more people like you guys.
Right back at you, brother, man. I really appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us today, Dustin Runyon. Guys listening, DustinRunyon.com. Check him out. You will not be disappointed, that I guarantee. Thanks a ton, Dustin. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, man. Take care.
Later.